Now let's examine a simple three-step process you can follow to quickly and accurately assess students' level of writing proficiency. The first step is to recognize the writer's overall phase of development. Quickly read through the piece of writing. What is your first impression? In most cases, you will not need to refer to the full rubric to complete this first step. The information you've learned in this initial training will be enough to make an informed, accurate decision. If you find you need to refer to the rubric to refresh your memory, reread the key words you've highlighted in the summary statements found below the title of each phase of development. If you can't read it, it's emergent writing. The writer is still building letter-sound knowledge. If it addresses a broad or general topic and sounds listy, it's most likely early writing. The writer is working on fluency of ideas, logical organization, and beginning conventions. If you can identify specific main ideas that are supported with details, it's developing writing. The writer is developing fewer ideas in greater detail. If it's clear that the writer is using language flexibly and deliberately to evoke a specific response from the reader, it's competent writing. The writer develops a narrow, controlled topic with a specific audience in mind. The second step is to decide if the writing demonstrates the proficiency of a writer in the first half or the last half of this phase of development. You'll make this decision based on the amount of control the student demonstrates with the complete set of skills learned during this phase of development. A student who has minimal control is in the first half of this phase of development. A student who demonstrates moderate to strong control is in the second half. Again, with only a little practice, you'll be able to complete this step without referring to the full rubric. Now that you've determined the phase of development and whether the writer is in the first or last half of this phase, you will complete step 3 by identifying the specific stage of writing. But now, instead of reading through all 12 stages, you have narrowed your search down to 1 or 2 stages most likely to match the writer's level of proficiency. While you may occasionally want to determine one holistic score for a piece of writing, in most cases you should identify 2 scores for each piece of writing: a stage score for the writer's development of ideas and a stage score for the accuracy of conventions. Effective writing achieves a balance between the clarity of ideas and the accuracy of conventions. Monitoring both aspects of writing will allow you to pinpoint the student's highest instructional priorities. Now you try it out. Use the 3-step process to score this piece of writing for the development of ideas and the accuracy of conventions. Follow along as I read the example. One day, while I was playing in my backyard, a small pup came, and I gave him food. Then he wanted to play, so I played fetch with him. Then I played follow the leader and Wichita Falls. Then my papa came out, and the small pup went wild. He dove into the house. He went in the garage and climbed over the car. The puppy jumped into the house, and my sis got wild. Then we calmed down. Then we squirted him with the hose, and we had a great time. The end. First, quickly identify the overall phase of development. If you need a refresher, use the key words you underlined on the rubric. Then, thinking about the skill sets students must learn at that phase of development, decide whether the writer is in the first or last half of that phase. Once you've determined the general level of proficiency, read the characteristics for those stages to identify the specific stage at which this student demonstrates proficiency on her development of ideas and accuracy of conventions. Press pause to score the piece of writing, then press play to continue learning. The 3-step scoring process will get faster the more you use it. Let's see how you did on the sample you scored. This writer retells an experience with a stray dog. All of the ideas stick to the topic, but none of the ideas is developed with any detail. This is indicative of an early writer. The writer's repetitive language and simple sentence patterns contribute to the listy sound of this personal experience, but this writer is proficient with most of the key skills early writers learn. This indicates the writer is in the second half of early writing. When we look at the characteristics of Stage 5 and Stage 6 early writers, there is a preponderance of evidence that the development of ideas is at Stage 6, and the accuracy of conventions is at Stage 6. This chart shows the range of stages at which on-grade level students should be consistently performing. Typically, students can be expected to gain 2 stages of proficiency in a year. Students who are performing at the lowest stage in the end-of-year range have limited control of grade level expectations. They are likely to need additional support and close monitoring in the next grade level in order to close this achievement gap. From 5th grade on, students should have control of all basic composition skills and many advanced skills. While they will continue to refine and expand their skills, they understand the power of writing and use it intentionally to influence others. They will continue to learn new techniques as they address increasingly more complex topics and write for wider, less familiar audiences. In other words, they now have the skills, the maturity, and the self-regulation necessary to develop their own voice as they write about the topics they know and care about. If you need grades, it's easy to convert the stage score into a numerical grade using the Easy Grader for your grade level. Easy Graders for 1st grade and up are provided in the additional resources included with this tutorial. Here's how you can get a grade for the writing sample we just examined. First, total the stage scores the student earned. This student demonstrated Stage 6 development of ideas and Stage 6 accuracy of conventions. 6 plus 6 equals 12 for the 2 scores. If the grade is taken during the 2nd semester, use the column for 2 scores located on the 2nd semester side of the chart. When you follow that row to the left, you find the corresponding grade of 100%. As with all subjects, students are expected to perform at higher levels of proficiency with each passing grade. The Easy Graders are designed to reflect these increasingly higher standards. If this same composition were written in 2nd grade, the writer would earn a B rather than an A. If it were written in 3rd grade, the writer would only earn a C. Now try scoring another example. This time yourself. See if you can read and score the paper within 3 minutes. Use the 3-step scoring process to score the development of ideas and the accuracy of the conventions. Press pause to read and score the piece of writing, then press play to continue. Did you meet the 3-minute goal? If not, I'm sure you will with a little more practice. Just be sure that you aren't letting yourself get bogged down by overanalyzing the writing. Faithfully use the 3-step process, and before you know it, you'll be able to read and score a 1-page piece of writing in 3 minutes or less. Now let's look at your scores. This is an example of a writer with stronger ideas than conventions. The development of ideas is in the second half of developing writing and demonstrates the proficiency of a writer moving from Stage 8 to Stage 9. The writer makes strong word choices that add value and depth to the ideas, but the relationship between some of the ideas needs more development to be clear. On the other hand, the writer's conventions demonstrate proficiency in the first half of developing writing. Again, this writer's accuracy of conventions is between 2 stages, moving from Stage 7 to Stage 8. When a writer demonstrates proficiency between two stages, both scores are added together and counted as two scores. For example, on the paper we just examined, the student demonstrated Stage 8-9 development of ideas and Stage 7-8 accuracy of conventions. That's counted as 4 scores. Add 8 and 9 together and 7 and 8 together for a total of 32 points. If the grade is taken during the first semester, use the column for 4 scores located on the first semester side of the chart. When we follow that row to the left, we find the corresponding grade of 84%. The Easy Grader is also weighted to factor in the expectation that students' writing skills will get stronger throughout the year. Typically, students will demonstrate 2 stages of growth in an academic year. When students receive instruction that is appropriate for their phase of development and apply these skills, their writing proficiency will improve and their grades will get higher. When students do not receive appropriate instruction for their phase of development or choose not to apply these skills, their writing proficiency will remain the same and their grades will fall. Let's look at one final feature of the Easy Grader. It is designed to counter biases that might occur. The 12-stage analytic writing rubric is an objective tool, but it is applied by human beings with some unavoidable subjectivity. I often tease that teachers fall into 2 categories when they score. Some I call grandma scorers. Just like a doting grandma, they willingly overlook any flaws in the composition and marvel at whatever the student has written. Others I call mean drunk uncle scorers. They are critical of every error and mentally deduct points for the flaws in the message. Subjectivity is the root of this problem. Obviously, as professionals, we try to recognize and avoid biases. However, any remaining subjectivity is minimized when you use the 3-step scoring process with fidelity and don't allow yourself to take shortcuts. By first identifying the broad phase of development and then determining whether or not the student demonstrates skills in the first or second half of this phase, you know you're in the right ballpark. If teachers have based their initial decision on the preponderance of evidence from the student's writing, both the grandma scorer and the mean drunk uncle scorer will be looking at the same range of stages. The Easy Grader is weighted in the student's favor to offset any slight bias that might occur in the scoring process. Let's see how the grade might have been affected by a grandma scorer and a mean drunk uncle scorer. Our score resulted in a grade of 84% on the last writing sample we examined. Another scorer might look for the lowest stage at which the writer's skills were secured and may have only awarded a Stage 8 for the development of ideas and Stage 7 for accuracy on conventions. Notice that the lower score is within 4 percentage points of the original score. A more generous scorer might have given the writer the benefit of any doubt and awarded the higher score. Again, notice that the higher score is within 4 percentage points of the original score. Whether you tend to grade harder or easier, your score shouldn't vary from an average score more than 2 to 4 percentage points. In other words, if teachers use the 3-step scoring process, any subjectivity that may occur should not significantly impact the student's grade. Now that you see how the 3-step scoring process works, allow me to offer a word of caution. Avoid making your assessments personal. When you've reinforced a skill for the 100th time and you know a student can apply the skill, but he just doesn't, it's tempting to zap him with your score as a penalty for his carelessness. Or, on the other hand, when you know how far a writer has come and the obstacles he's overcome, it's equally tempting to reward him with your score. But keep in mind, this rubric is not intended to assess effort. It's intended to objectively assess the writer's level of proficiency. Adjusting scores to reward or punish effort or to reward performance on isolated skills will give an inaccurate picture of the student's writing proficiency. Whether you're reporting the scores to students and parents or simply using the information to guide your instruction, everyone gains more from an accurate, impartial evaluation. Remember, you're assessing the writing, not the writer.